Hi folks, hope you're well out there. Now if you've followed the channel or you've seen some of my previous install videos, you'll know that I put a set of Denali S4 spot lamps on the Africa Twin and ran those through a Hex Innovate ezCAN to control them. It's been a brilliant setup, but my head has been turned by these, the new Denali D7 Pros. There's a lot of extra functionality in them, so let's take a look at me fitting them and why I'm fitting them. So the S4s have been brilliant on the bike, nice and small, but they put out a huge amount of light. You know, riding around the country lanes in the dark or at dusk, it's just like riding in daylight, but I can use them obviously as daytime running lights. I can do all sorts of things running them through the Hex ezCAN. But the D7 Pros offer me a little bit of extra flexibility. Obviously more light, you've got 7 LEDs, but what I like is that you can run 2 circuits off of these lights. So the S4s just have a single lead that comes off, and although you can change the brightness on the light, it's just one light that it's controlling. But it's a little bit different on the D7 Pros because that cable is split, so you can run the 4 lights on the outside and the 3 in the middle on 2 independent circuits. That means you can do a lot more with them. You can turn those 3 lights into either an amber, white or yellow daytime running light, or as I want to do, turn those into an auxiliary indicator. If I want to use the D7 Pros to their full extent, then I'm going to need 4 circuits, and that's all you've got on Hex ezCAN. So I'm going to daisy chain a second ezCAN into the system so that I've then got another 4 circuits for other accessories. I do run the power to my sat-nav through the ezCAN, so I've got switched ignition power to that. I've got some daytime running light stroke indicators that are little LEDs that sit behind the Honda badge on the side of the tank. I might fit those. So I'll need at least another 2 circuits out of that, and I've got an in-of camera coming which I'm going to fit to the bike, and it's going to be easier to run that through the ezCAN as well, so I am going to add a second one into the mix. So there's quite a lot to get through in this video. What you will see at the bottom are various chapters, so if you want to go to a particular part, because I appreciate not all of this is going to be relevant to everybody, then you can pick those parts that you need. So each individual part of the process, I'll try to break that up into a separate chapter that you can access down the bottom. So let's crack on. Just like the old days, back in the garage tinkering around with bikes. Now, this section, if you do not own an Africa Twin and are not interested in how to take the plastics off to make this fitment a little bit easier, then you can just skip to the next chapter. But yeah, I'll go ahead and take off this front fairing here, this top bit, and all the bits that just makes it a little bit easier to actually feed the wiring through to get it back to where the ezCAN sits. First one is really simple. We can take this plate off, which does give you a little bit of access in here, but this is simply 3 3mm Allen keys, and then that just lifts away. Be careful with the edges because they are sharp here, but that just gives us a little bit of access into here, but the idea is to get this and this off as well. But that's a start. The next part to take off is this cover at the top here. You've got a 5mm bolt here and here, and on the inside you've got a couple of push clips. And just remember, when you put the bolts back in, it's the long bolt at the front and the short bolt at the rear. And this is where the SW Motec Pro tank ring comes in handy, because these are magnetised, so I can put my bolts on there and I know they're not going to disappear and roll off and fall away. This one's not so easy to show, so I've had to use a creative camera angle. So this is it here, and then to remove these you just have to push the little button on the inside to release it, and then it will just pull out like that. And there's a second one at the front here. I'm trying to do this and hold the phone. Push that in there, pull the clip out. Easy. Now you've got those 4 bolts off, there is another little neck to getting this off, and it would vary depending on your model year of your bike and whether it's an Adventure Sports or a standard bike. On the Adventure Sports you have to lift this up and slide it backwards. You can see there's little tabs on here that tie in with the tabs on here, so it's to slide it backwards to get it out of the way, and that can come off. Then if you come around to the front, you've got this inner fairing here. All you need to do is pop that out, same as we did with the other push fits. You can leave this in place. This doesn't have to come off. You just need to loosen this because that holds the plastic on there. There's one under here as well. So that's the one down there and the one under here. Yeah, we've missed that one up here, which is a 5mm bolt. That just holds this top piece in. And just for clarification, that small bolt at the front there, you can see, is a short one, but it has a shoulder on it. So you can't confuse that with the one from the other trim piece, because that doesn't have a shoulder on. And so the rest of this now should be pretty straightforward. You've got push fit sockets, which I'll show you once I've got this off. But as far as I'm aware, we've got one sort of down here, one around the badge here, one under the indicator. And then once you pull those off, this front panel should slide off, and hopefully I've got room to do that with the crash bars on, but there's only one way to find out. So if I start, yeah, there you go, there's one popped there, there's the second pop there, and there's the third pop there. So in theory, with those out, whilst I've got this off, I will show you, you've got these little tabs here and the tabs up here, and there are the plastic tabs on the other side. So this thing pulls out sideways as opposed to sliding back and forward. So once those other four from this side are unclipped, that just pulls out sideways. And at the moment it's the crash bar that's preventing me from doing that. Okay, so that was lucky, I got away with that. Just undoing this bolt here allowed me enough leverage to pull that out of the way, so it then can lift off. And now you can see there's your push fit. 1, 2, 3, 4 push fits there. And now that gives us a much better access to be able to get the wiring through, because that's the hardest part of this job, is feeding the wiring through. Obviously I've got to do the other side, but it saved me turning the bike around and doing all the other stuff. I'll just keep it all to this side. But there you go. Wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Well, that took a bit of a turn. I took the fairings off and then decided to make things easier to show you essentially the routing of the cables. You don't necessarily have to take the tank off. I managed to do it before without doing it. The tank is literally 2 push fit connectors for the plugs, a hose, a breather hose with a clip on it, and a quick release fuel clamp. That's it. Disconnect those, you can lift the tank off. Each ezCAN that's fitted does need its own 12-volt power supply, so you have to make 2 connections. So we'll worry about connecting these up to the battery in a little while. Here is the original ezCAN. If you've seen the previous videos, you will see that you have this cable here is a splitter which plugs into the ECU of the bike here. So you disconnect the ECU, plug the splitter cable in, then plug the bike cable back in. So you effectively daisy chain this into the ECU. To fit a second one of these, you need a cable that splits this. It's that simple. So what we need is this from Hex, a universal cable splitter. Disconnect that cable that runs to the bike's ECU, and then with the splitter you just connect that into there, and then you run one of those to this ezCAN, and then for the second ezCAN it's just a case of plugging that into there, and that's it. So apart from running the power cables through for this one as well, that is all that is required to get these 2 set up. The difficulty with this bike is going to be finding room to actually get these 2 in this section under here, because there isn't a lot of room. Now it's just the case of mounting the spot lamps on the front and running the cables up into the cans, and then putting it all back together. So here is the mighty D7 Pro, and we'll show that when it's on the front of the bike, but I thought I'd show you it here. As you can see, it's got 2 connectors. The S4s that I've got have just got a single connector, but this has got 2 circuits on it, and it's got 2 circuits on it because with these 7 LEDs, this center row of 3 can be set up as a different circuit to these other 4. You can have all of those come on as your main beam, that you can clip something like this on, and that diffuses the light, so you can have those as main beams, and that as a more diffused light if you want to run them all together. But in the box you get a yellow and an amber cover as well, and obviously you can mix and match these as you go along, but my intention was to fit that on there and have these three wired in as the indicator. If I then want to take this off and just run it like that, like in a traditional D7, or if I want to put the clear cover on it, I can do that. But what this does is give me the ability with those two connected to change that with the laptop in the software afterwards, and not have to worry about doing any other wiring. These two wires run through. I've got an extension cable. At Hex they do these extension cables, 1.5 meter cable, so I'll run one from each of those. You need 4 of these in total, so I'll get this mounted on the front, then we can have the fun job of tracing the cables through to get those into place, and then set it up and get playing around with it. So these are the SW crash bars, the lower crash bars, great crash bars, fit nice, look factory, very protective. I've laid the bike on its side, and it will touch that, and it will touch that, and it will touch the foot peg, but it won't, and nothing else. None of the other plastics touch the ground, to the point that I even took the upper crash bars off because they were just added weight. They were useful for mounting cameras onto, but not much else other than that really. So but yeah, anyway, I'm going to give this a quick clean, and this is where I'm going to mount the spot lamps. These crash bars come with an adapter for a spot lamp mount, again from SW Motec. So they'll go on there where the original ones were. Okay, so this bit is easy. Pop the bolt through with the washer and the nut on the back. There we go. I'm not going to do it tight for the moment because I'm going to want to adjust all of these, but that's where they sit. That looks pretty good. And then what I've got to do is run these cables up. Looking at this, I think I'm going to be able to put them through somewhere like this. Then we've got the extension leads that just plug into there and they run through. But that is it for this nice simple job to mount these. Right, so let's just plug these extension cables in so we know what we're working with. That's one, and there's the other. Now obviously 1.5 meters is a lot of cable. We don't necessarily need all of that. And you do have to kind of hide it away, but this does give us a bit of flexibility if I need to move that ezCAN right up to under the pillion seat. But it's better to have more cable than not enough, I always say. So here we go, this cable runs up through here. I've zip tied it to fix it. The junction is zip tied to this little bit of stuff that's already done. Then I run it through here, up under the frame, and the two cables come out here and can be connected here. The two power cables, I've run those through and connected those up to the battery. So there's power running to all of those now. I have this light fitted with the two cables. I've got to do the other side, and then it's a case of neatening it all up, make sure everything is doing what it should be doing, and then it's putting it all back together again. The biggest job now is to get all of this wiring neatly tucked away, so I'll spend probably an hour routing that through, tidying it up, making sure it's all out of the way and not interfering with anything else for when I come to put the tank and everything back on. So as you may have seen, I did have an extra set of lights on here. These are a set of LEDs that sit underneath the Honda badge, and you can use those as a daytime running light, either in white or orange, and they can flash as an indicator, so you've got an added indicator on the side. I think they look quite good. For me though, they're a really good safety feature because it gets another flashing light on the side. So if you're side on at a junction, people should be able to pick this up, but if they don't, you've also got an extra orange light flashing on here, which is good. The Hex ezCAN software can be downloaded from their site, and I'll leave a link in the description for that particular page. All you need to do is download that and install. To start, plug the cable provided into the ezCAN and the other end into your laptop. Open up software, and you'll be confronted with the configuration page. So at the top are your 4 circuits: red, blue, yellow and white. They're the 4 circuits on the ezCAN, and then you can see what they're assigned to. So we have the red circuit there as auxiliary light 1, we have the yellow also as auxiliary light 1, the blue circuit is the left turn signal, and the white circuit is the right turn signal. So down below you can see each of those broken down. So on the turn signals, I can change the turn signal intensity and the running light intensity. So In this case I want the running light switched off but the turn signal up, and you can see as well on the top of each section you've got the coloured symbols which show you what those lights are. In the top signal, these are the dipped main beam, so I can change the day and night intensity on those, and obviously for the main beam I'm going to want it as a 100%. I can turn one of those off if when the turn signal is active. I can have the light strobe when the horn is blown, or three pulls on the main beam I can get it to strobe on a flash to pass. I can also change it so that it inverse flashes with the indicators when the hazards are on. So as you can see, a really easy way to set it up, lots of control, and you can do all sorts of different things with this. If you want to change the functionality of the lights, just click on the icon at the top and then you can choose how you allocate that light. So if I want to change that now to the auxiliary number 2, that means those 3 individual lights in the middle that were set up to be indicators are now the running lights as you would be at the top, but I can separately change the intensity of both the dipped and the main beam compared to the other 4 lights. So I'll change that again, click on the blue circuit, turn it back to the indicators, apply those changes, and you can see there we're back on the indicators, and then we can get out and see what they look like.
So let's give them the first test. We're on an A road now. The DRL set of 4 spots, 2 top 2 bottom, are set at I think 10% for night, 20% for the day. I've got 100% on main beam. I've got the D7s wired up as you saw as indicators, and I've got the DRL running lights here as well, so they are white normally, and then when you indicate they flash orange. I'm not sure if I like the white on it, not at night anyway. Love those. So here we go into the dark, and then let's get, whoa, main beam. So there we are, that is the D7 Pros. That is just the 4 lights, the 2 at the top and the 2 at the bottom, not all 7. I know, hey, that is incredible. Now it makes you feel like you actually don't need all 7 lights, but I will show you them. As you can see, the main beam drops off and switches off when you indicate. So this is just 10% daytime running lights and the headlight, plus a little bit of cornering light, nicely timed in, and then that is main beam. Incredible. It's just superb. And the piece that you can put across the centre actually diffuses the light even more, it gives it a bigger, wider pitch, which I don't think you really need. I'll jump off the bike and give you a look. So that is the headlight, the dipped running lights, and the side indicators. Bit Christmas tree. Let's give it a flick of main beam. Look at that. That is bright. Kill the main beam, and then the indicators. Yeah, they're not going to miss that, are they? And if I then put the indicators on the other side, now from the side of the bike, you know what, I don't really think these are adding anything, if I'm going to be honest. Maybe I'll take those off. Okay, so I'm going to go back and hook up the laptop and change the settings on those middle lights, put the diffuser on so you can see what that difference is. I don't really know what it looks like with this camera. I might have to set it up with a different camera. Steve at A Bike Thing does some really fantastic videos. He's got obviously the ability to be able to rig all the lights up and have access to them, so if you want to see how they compare, then go and take a look at his YouTube channel. I'll leave a link on the screen or down the bottom. Okay, so I'm out again, covering the same route. It's just chucked it down with rain, so a little bit soggy out here. So we are now running at 20% for the driving lights and then 100% on main beam. So what you could do, of course, is set the 3 in the middle up as your running lights and have the extra 4 come on top and bottom for the main beam. You can kind of do it in whichever configuration you wish. So getting into the darker bit of the road now, whether you can see the difference with the extra 10% on the spots, and then main beam is quite significantly different with all 7 lights. Again, I don't really know how easily this will show, but you can see the difference between that and that. You might not get the full intensity of the lights that I'm getting whilst I'm riding. As you may have also noticed, I've disconnected these side DRLs and indicators. Wasn't really a fan of that. I guess in this sort of format it adds an extra indicator, but when you're using those center DRLs as the indicator, you can see it perfectly easily from the side. There isn't a need to add that. So I've left them in place for the time being. I've disconnected them. I'm probably going to take all the bodywork off again when I come to fit the in-off camera. So when I do that, I'll remove those. So if there's anybody out there that wants a set of those, let me know. I've got a set going cheap. So I'll stop where I stopped before. So there you go. Normal lights. Have a look at those from the front. Yeah, maybe they could be dropped down a little bit. And then main beam. That's with all 7 lights on. And in my tail bag I did bring the diffusers. So if I was to put the white diffuser on, we'll see how much difference that makes. Just spreads the light out a bit wider. Don't know if you can see that. That's with it on. That's with the diffuser off. With it on, it spreads it out a little bit wider. Also in the back here I have got a yellow set. I'll fit both of those for the ride back. There you go. That's the running lights again, and then boom, daylights. And this time we've got the diffusers on, and you can see actually on the narrower roads you can see how much it spreads the light out. You can see there's this slight yellowing here, but it definitely kicks the main beam out broad. It doesn't really affect how far it goes down the road. But it does kick it out much wider. So they do work. And I quite like that. Decision, I suppose, for me is whether to run with the middle DRLs as extra indicators and just have the 4 lights. You know, as you've seen, the 4 lights previously are bright enough on main beam. Having the extra 3 does make it much brighter, but does it need to be? I think I quite like the extra visibility of the indicators. But yeah, the D7 Pros definitely bring the day to the night. I'm really pleased with this, really pleased I made the change.
So there you go, that is the Denali D7 Pros fitted to the Africa Twin and run through a hexin of a ezCAN. The most difficult part of the job is actually taking all the plastics and the tank off and getting access to the guts of the bike to be able to run the cabling through to do a nice clean installation. The actual wiring up of the lights and the control thereafter is really simple, as you've seen. Once you've got them plugged in, it's just a case of smacking your laptop into the Hex ezCAN and then changing all the settings. You don't have to change any of the other wiring, and obviously with the D7 Pros you've got a lot of flexibility as to how you use those 7 LEDs in 2 banks and what functionality you can add to that. I'm really pleased that I've fitted those on there. I think the change is really good. I've just got to decide, as I said, whether I run with the middle 3 as indicators. The more I look at the footage, the more I quite like the fact that they diffuse out, so I may just keep them as they're set up now and put a clear diffuser on, so I've got a nice bright wide range of light, and that's really what I want the main beam for when I'm out on the road. So if you've got any questions, then let me know in the comment section down below, whether that's about the lights or the ezCAN, or indeed getting the Africa Twin stripped down. If you're an Africa Twin owner and you want a little bit more information, then just let me know and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. There is a link in the description to the Hex Innovate website as well. If you go to that, you can see all of the stuff that they do, and you can place an order through there as well if you like the kit. So thanks for watching, and all that leaves me to say is until next time, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.